I'll tell you when we're live because I'm looking at it on my other laptop.
We're on Twitch too, right?
Oh shit! I did not add the Twitch. I will add the Twitch right now. Sorry about that.
Yeah, let's make sure we're on there too because that's a good one.
Oh fuck! Can I add stuff? Hey everybody, we're live.
What's up, everybody? We are live.
We're having a little fun. You can check us out on YouTube and Facebook. We're also going to be on Twitch as soon as I add that up. We have also in the gang, will be joining us very soon, Mr. Robert Hines.
Rob Hines is back. The new OGs are back, man. We got the whole show back here. We got the gang back together. We got a new one coming out here. It's election night. The returns are starting to come in. The projections are starting to come. I don't think we're going to get a whole lot. I think we're going to lose some winners. I mean, we're not going to get every winner tonight. You know what I mean? You're not going to catch every winner tonight. That's not going to happen.
Not. We're definitely not. I am pretty certain that there's going to be some holes. Although I'll be honest right now, Florida, I thought Florida was a lost cause. I was wishful thinking that maybe Val Demings could somehow rally and make something happen. It is not going to happen. They have already declared Marco Rubio the winner down there. Yeah, I'm not excited about that either. But, it's Florida, and Ron DeSantis is king down there. Ron DeSantis has also been projected as the winner. I saw that coming. Charlie Crist seems like a nice guy, but he's just not Florida.
Well, before we get into every race, let's kind of get anybody. Let's just kind of like start this up to speed and get everybody going. So we're doing a live election show. We're going to be here for a couple hours, maybe 3, depending on how this is all going and how my battery holds up. I can hear it in the background on your shit, XL.
Oh, sorry about that. I'll get rid of that. Forgot how good the mics are.
But we're doing a live election show. We're just going to be talking some shit about some of these candidates, about some of the crazy stuff that people have done. We're going to be updating you guys on some of the results that are coming in. We're going to see how many Trump supporters are getting elected, how many election deniers end up running our elections from here on out. And we're going to talk about some of the crazy candidates that have popped up and some of the wild shit that's gone on. So strap in. Some of the elections are already declaring winners for. I'm sure that's going to go over well depending on who the winner is declared.
Man, I'm telling you, it is very interesting. And guys, anybody, if I look weird in the chat right now, I am connecting our Twitch and trying to type and talk and act like I'm engaged and at the same time. So excuse that little technical flaw. I will be done in a second. But man, Florida is scary, dude, because I mean everybody makes the Florida man jokes and all that stuff, but they are riding hard with these mugs, man, in a way that I'm just shocked. I'm shocked that you can ship people across the country as a joke and people still fuck with you.
I'm almost trying to get to a point where I'm surprised that people are shocked about that.
That just seems like when I saw that I was like, okay, that's doing too much.
I mean, obviously that's just not the case, though. You know what I mean? Like that's just not what's that's not they're not doing too much because people don't see it's so interesting, man. Like, as we've talked about many times on the podcast, you and I live kind of different lives than a lot of the population does in regards to chasing status or trying to fit in with what everybody's doing and all that stuff. And I think one of the things that I've noticed in the way that voters tend to be is that unlike the way that you and I are, where we are sometimes purposefully willing to buck convention for a better idea, is that I think a lot of people are very concerned about that. A lot of people, like when push comes to shove, are very concerned about making any kind of a change. And I know that may not seem odd to some people, but the way it expresses itself is a lot of times, like I was listening to a lot of these interviews they were doing with people as they were leaving the polls today, and there's these people who are explaining why they made their choices, and the decisions seemingly always come down to this idea of like these split ticket voters who are but are mad that there's no change happening. And you're never going to get change voting for some Democrats and some Republicans. It's just not going to happen. You're literally voting for gridlock. You're voting for a lack of ability for things to move forward. And so I think there's such an interest in like there's such an interest in wanting to be what's considered normal by standards that people are afraid to take a position that makes them seem like they're an outlier, because we do make fun of people that we see as outliers on both ends, right?
So here's what's crazy. I don't even know if people are okay. So like there's this expression that people used to say all the time. Some people still say it every now and then, but they get called out on it, where they used to say, well, I'm fiscally conservative, but I'm socially liberal. And that phrase has been basically exposed as bullshit, because you can't be fiscally conservative and socially liberal, because if you're socially liberal, the things that you are socially liberal for require money that
right.
Socially conservative says you can't do.
Right.
And
right.
and because that's like such a cliche that people like to think. I think people believe that government is best. And in the olden days, that 20, 30 years ago, it may have been true that government is best, where you kind of have a split thing. You don't let one party, Elon Musk punk ass tweeted some shit today, yesterday.
Yeah, I saw that.
You got to keep the government in check so one side doesn't go too far. The funny thing about that argument is the Democrats don't want to say this because they get so much shit about not being unified that they don't want to admit this. But actually, the fact that Democrats aren't unified is one of their strengths. It's one of their biggest strengths, because we don't need another fucking party. If the Democrats ran everything, we'd still fight amongst ourselves. Like we just saw it. They had the presidency, the House, and the Senate, and there was shit that they wanted to do that didn't get done because Democrats fight internally, whereas Republicans don't. Republicans running everything is the thing that you fear, because when they have total control, they are just going to just rubber stamp every goddamn thing. And Democrats historically don't typically do that, even when we have all the power.
Well, the thing that goes on, the thing with Democrats is because the tent is so big that what appeals to Democrats in one part of the country can be different than what is necessarily appealing to Democrats in another part of the country. Yeah. And if you're trying to, if you're dealing with pro-labor, blue-collar workers, which the Democratic Party, whether these workers actually get it or not, is actually more beneficial to them than the Republican Party. So like they should fit under that tent, but also like trans women in urban areas who have HIV, that also fits under that tent, right? Like trans sex workers in urban areas also fit in the same tent as blue collar union guy. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. So, and like, and on the Republican side, like the majority of their voters, a high majority of their voters are white. They have a hard time, a large percent of their voters are evangelicals, not Christian, evangelicals, right? Like there's a big evangelical population. They don't.
They're trying to convert motherfuckers.
There's no version of legislation that they really stir around other than just like taking away legislation. And, that's the other part of being socially liberal and fiscally conservative, is that the difficult part of being socially liberal and fiscal conservative, aside from the money part, is that being socially liberal means you're willing to enact legislation to protect those groups. And being fiscally conservative also means you're not willing to pass laws that would protect those groups, because in the end, it does take money. But also being a conservative means you're not interested in legislation. You don't want there to be a lot of legislation. And so those are both problems that happen. But I think there's a big thing where people are very concerned about falling too far to one side or another. You know what I mean? And so, they get this thing where they got to try and here's what's even crazier about it is the reality is a process either works or it doesn't. An ideology is either something that is going to be largely something that works or it isn't. This isn't like picking a GM for a football team and then that guy doesn't do well, and so you have to get like this has been a thing I've heard about the Chicago Bears, right? They're a football team that they go for a few years where they get an offensive coach, and then like their team becomes becomes more of an offensive style coach. They try to be, they're not very good at it. Then they get a defensive coach, and then they become a big defensive team for a while. And they try. That is not how politics should work. Politics shouldn't be like, well, we tried cutting taxes and doing that for a while, so let's try raising taxes and helping people for 4 years. And if that doesn't solve all the problems, then we're going to go ahead and kick those people out. And we're going to bring back the other. That's not a thing. You have to, if you really believe that by taxing the richest of the rich, getting rid of tax loopholes, taking care of people who need help, like making room for marginalized groups at the table, then what you really need to do is give it time to actually manifest and recognize when things that have been done by different administrations are part of the problem, right? Like the whole inflation issue that people are talking about. Big, this is a big issue. The whole thing about why people are talking about why Republicans are going to end up winning is because of inflation. But what people don't want to talk about is the 2017 Trump tax cut that everybody said was going to add hundreds of billions of dollars to the deficit, right? Even the budget, the OBS or whatever, says it's going to add hundreds of billions of dollars to the deficit. Oh, I can hear that in the background.
That was me. Sorry about that.
It's going to add hundreds of billions of dollars to the deficit is what they're saying, is what they said when they passed those tax cuts. Now, they said they'd be able to beat those tax cuts as long as they had 3% growth every year, right? And that was in 2017. And now we've had a pandemic that happened. They had to hand out a boatload of money over that, right? So they hand out a boatload of money for the pandemic. They got that out there. We have not hit 3% growth over that time, so we're definitely not going to hit that. So who ends up paying for that? That is one of the places where inflation comes from, right?
Hey, Bobby.
Did we lose you for a minute?
Yeah, actually. Hey, if you're watching us on YouTube right now, we're going to shut down for just 2 quick minutes because we're not broadcasting on Facebook, and I just figured out why. I'm going to fix it real quick, and then we'll be right back.
We'll be back in 2 minutes. We're going to take a break.
All right. Sorry about that. Come right back.
That's all right.